Thursdays in Black is all about ending sexual violence against women and girls. Real tragedy for us in Fiji because if you look at the statistics around sexual violence and rape, the age for the victim survivors is getting younger. You know, it's the age group. If you look at it, it's what we classify as children. Yeah, so children are being raped, under 18s, yeah, being raped, and the other finding is that the perpetrators are, well known, to the victim survivors because it's someone of trust in their communities, in their families, which then brings me to the third point. It's that the home and the community is perhaps the most unsafe place for women and girls when it comes to rape and sexual assault. It's no longer stranger danger. Yes, there are some cases, but the majority of the cases are happening in our homes. It's happening in our communities. And what we like to say for that is, don't twist the statistics around and blame women to say that they're not doing their jobs. Um, a lot is expected from women. But when it comes to rape and looking after children and all of that, we all have to address the bad behavior from men and boys in here, to say, well, why are they doing it? What propels them to behave that way? And so for that, it's what we are now doing is we will, I think, about in a few weeks' time, be releasing a trends analysis. So we've been analyzing the data that comes out of High Court on all the cases of rape, and we analyze the data to see what is the profile of the victim survivor, what is the profile of the perpetrator. We want to see how the cases ran in court. How did the court officials behave? Was there any bias or discrimination displayed? And then we want to see the sentencing profiles. Yeah. So we've been doing this, and I think this year is our 7th or 8th year of doing this, and we want to release the trans analysis, and once we finish this, we will release it because statistics speak volumes. Yeah, every time the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions releases its monthly statistics, you can see how horrible it is. So they release the statistics as per their office, which is all the cases that go through. We look at what comes out processed. And we then do the assessment of, well, how did the case go from start to the end? And yeah, so we as a country are not doing very well in that. So that's one thing that we are doing, and we are hoping that when we do release the trends analysis, that the country will pay attention to that because it's very, very startling statistics that we produce. The other thing we are doing is, we are working with government, with other sister organizations like the Crisis Center, Diva for Equality, for our National Action Plan for the prevention of violence against women and girls, because that's what needs to happen now. There needs to be a profound effort in putting into implementation the protection plan. The protection plan is basically re-educating everybody, and that's going to take a long time. We have to re-educate everybody to think differently in terms of, well, how do we utilize our power? Because violence against women and girls, the root cause of it all is in that imbalance of power, what we say patriarchy, where one group feels they're more powerful, and so they will use their power that way, to beat someone up, to abuse them, to rape them, because that's violence as well. So how do we then get that group to change their mindset and change their behavior and that requires whole-scale, intense education. So that's what we have embarked on with government, with a whole-of-country approach, and it's going to take some time. But that's what we are working on. We are working on protocols. We are working on ensuring that the materials that go out are the right ones. We're working with different ministries with their own different, approaches they have, all with the same goal of, however it is, the mindsets will change, and down the line we will see a reduction in this, and even, a situation where we have zero violence. So we're working towards that, and our main sort of area of work in this as an organization is around access to justice. So because we work a lot on legislative and policy reform, we then want to see whether all the legislative reform that we have, advocated for, whether it is actually working for women. Because laws and policies, they're not static, they need periodic, changes depending on what the context is, what women, are actually saying, So, we're looking at Family Law Act, we're looking at the Domestic Violence Act, we're looking at the Crimes Act, we're looking at even the Employment Act with sexual harassment in it, and realizing that, a lot more can be done. So when the opportunity is right, that's when we go for law reform. But that's the other bit, making sure that women know how to access justice, they understand the pathways, and at the same time, we're, collecting from women, their experiences as they have participated in the, as part of accessing justice for themselves, so that we know when reform needs to be. And this is not one story, but this is an aggregate of what our research has found, and it is startling. So when we were gauging access to justice and we wanted to see what women's experience was, we talked to, a number of women who were engaging somehow in the formal justice sector, trying to access some justice for themselves. And we found that on an average, from the first time a woman experienced violence to when she actually reached out and sought for some help, it was taking her an average of 2.5 years. So you can imagine, from the first time she experienced violence to when she actually went and received some help, it's an average of 2.5 years, 686 days, or is it the other way around, 868 days. It takes her that long on an average. And in that 2.5 years, she's trying at least 6 times to reach out for help. So she's asking people in her community, usually it'd be, someone senior, or the talatala's wife, or the headman's wife or something. 6 times she'd be trying to find some help, but she won't be able to break out of it. Yeah. So to me, that was startling. The fact that we here, together with our sister organizations and other feminist organizations, have advocated and put in place very good laws. Yeah. Domestic violence law is one of the better ones that we have. Our crimes law is updated. Family law, which is, significantly better than what it was before. But still, women were taking 2.5 years, to find help. And in this 2.5 years, if you understand the cycle of violence, they're in there, their children are in there, and witnessing all of this. She is getting beaten up. She could be becoming disabled or even dead, because we recently saw how many cases, of women being killed, and it's not happening just out of the blue. It's happening in this cycle. Yeah, so in this 2.5 years, a lot happens. So, to me, that has been very significant. So what do we do? Why did this happen? And it happens because she doesn't know the access to justice pathways, right? Who do we call immediately to find help, right? We think that, yeah, the crisis center, the government helpline, all of that is widely available, but not to her. Because if she knew it, then she wouldn't have to ask in the average of 6 times, right? And if the people around her knew it, right, one of those people would have helped her say, call this number and you will find some help, right? None of that was happening. So the pathways are not, the women on the ground are not aware of the pathways, right? So they need to be educated about, if you are experiencing, violence in these ways, you must know that, it's not normal, it's against the law, and there are things that can be done to keep her safe, keep her children safe. How is she going to find that information? It's by calling that helpline, to get the information and following the advice, because I know the crisis center, takes on a rights-based approach when it comes to, giving counseling services and all the advice. So they don't force anybody to go a particular pathway. They give all the information. The woman decides whichever pathway to take, and whichever pathway they will support it, right? So, and that's the way counseling services should be. And from there, then the different pathways get sorted out. So to me, that is startling. That is startling. And the other fact is that children, grandmothers, women, aging women, all women and girls are not safe in their own homes and communities. And I'm not just saying that lightly. I'm saying that because that's what the statistics says. And it's family members, it's the grandfather, it's the stepfather, it's the uncle, it's the neighbor, the cousin, who are the violators in this case. Yeah. And we call ourselves in Fiji as very, religious and very moral, in the way we live our lives. I don't think so. I really don't think so. Because the kinds of horrific cases that we hear of, rape and incest, that goes on for years, and there's so much coercive power, there's so much grooming and so much threat that the poor woman or girl, is told of, that by the time she finds the courage to speak up, it can be years of abuse that she's being meted with, right? So I find that really startling, and something that, if we truly were who we say we are, as religious and very moral, we wouldn't be doing all of this. We wouldn't be.